One, two. Well, hey everybody, how you doing? This is the real Manos, and I'm with my friend Sydpart2, also known as Ian, which I will call him that because that's his name. Hey!
I am offended. You will use my internet name and only my internet name. I am like super secretive about my identity and stuff.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Sydpart2. Alright, I'm Mr. The Real Manos, and we are here in the beginnings of 2020, the 20s, and we are going to be talking about the previous year, 2019, and specifically the comics that came out. Now, for the last few years, on a few YouTube channels, I've enjoyed talking about the top 10 single issues of the year. And why single issues instead of arcs and series and stuff like that is because I like to break it down with the personal experience of sitting down and reading a comic and just being really knocked out by it. Now, the way the rules is, it's the top 10 single issues, and if you really love an arc, it's okay. The choices I will pick are representative of the arcs in question. So, with that said, I thought I'd get going here. But first off, hi Ian, how you been
Hi,
doing?
I'm been doing pretty good. 2019 had some rough patches, but looking forward to 2020.
Excellent. And I should mention before we get started, I thought I'd plug for you. You're doing two things, of course. Your channel, Sydpart2, which everybody should watch. But you're working on another channel. I thought I'd mention.
Over on Geeks for Fun, we're doing a bunch of crazy cool things. Some what ifery over on Geeks for Fun. We're doing Dragon Ball DC, which is what if Planet Krypton and Planet Vegeta traded places, so you get the Saiyans in the DC universe. And it's hella fun, and we're getting like voice acting and stuff. So even if you're really not into Dragon Ball, it might be interesting for you just to see how the Saiyans change things up over there. Or if you're just into general fan content and stuff like that, it's a good old time. Got a couple other things on there, but that's the main draw. Unless anyone's like a big Zoro and or Roni Kenshin fan. I did a what if over there about those two meeting as well. That was fun.
That's awesome. And,
Thank you.
That's a huge channel. They're bigger than me now, so it's been really exciting watching it blow up.
Get on our level, old man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to step up my work here. All right, Case. So I thought, of course, like we did last year, I'll do number 10, and you do number 10, so on and so forth, until we get to 1. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
All right, let's go. And my number 10 choice is a one-shot special called Steven Universe Fusion Frenzy, number 1. And this is from Kaboom. And for the first couple of years of the Steven Universe comics, I found them to be kind of like just okay. They've been kind of existing. And I've been buying them because, I'm a huge fan of it, so I, want to get them. But in the last couple of years, they've really kind of stepped things up, and a lot of the art styles have been really fun and energetic to look at. The stories have been really engaging. And they've done a number of like one-shots this year, and this is my particular favorite because it's a bunch of vignettes that focus on the fusion characters of Steven Universe. And they're by a bunch of artists and writers I don't believe I've heard of, but they've all done like excellent work in this, and the art is gorgeous on this. And they focus on like the Stefani character, Garnet, as well as Smoky Quartz, and let's see, as well as I can never remember her name. Let's see. The one that the Nicki Minaj one. Let's see. It's really cool. Particularly, my favorites in this are the Stefani one, which is like it takes the metaphor of LGBT representation to the next level because there is a gay rights parade in Beach City, and the gang goes all dressed up for it. That's when a monster attacks. and Stephen and Connie fuse, and their costume kind of becomes, this kind of amazing like LGBT like flag as she fights its monster. And the other one, which really kind of stuck out to me, which is also kind of an LGBT metaphor story, where Stephen and Amethyst fuse into Smoky Quartz, and they beat a monster, everything's over, and they start hanging out with one of Amethyst's friends, Vidalia, and she keeps referring to Smoky Quartz as Amethyst through the whole story, and it's kind of quietly bothering Smoky Quartz. And we get into the idea of referring to me as my dead name, which is an issue in the transgender community, and it's one of those things that it doesn't occur to me until the end of the story, where Smoky Quartz tells her about it, and she goes, "Oh." It's one of those things, so it didn't even occur to her. And the art in this is really gorgeous, and it's got that kind of like combination of like slightly cartoony manga and Western comic art. So yeah, I was really knocked out by this when I first read it. Really enjoyed it.
Cool. Yeah, the Steven Universe has some interesting stuff going on in it, just like as a community thing. Because like as you first started talking about it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. They like directly went to a gay pride parade. You probably couldn't do that in the show. And then I thought about it, I'm like, no, they've done a gay wedding in the show. So that's it's not even like that'd be one of those things where like the comic could do it, but the show couldn't. But nah, the Steven Universe pushes a lot of boundaries in that way. That's really cool.
And they just recently, in the last few episodes, had a gender-neutral character pop up with that uses they/them pronouns.
That's cool.
Which is, it's really interesting because you've been able to watch Rebecca Sugar put together step by step what you can do in all ages media, because Stevani is kind of like a metaphor for non-binary people. And then in the last season, just a regular non-binary person shows up. Not a magical creature or anything like that, just a human. It's like, and that's kind of like you can track, how these steps goes. It's really been great, and this comic is a lot of fun to read as well. I mean, more than just being important representations. Absolutely beautiful, page to page.
Nice. All right, I'll take over and go to my number 10 then, and that is Doctor Strange number 12. There's a lot of good issues of Doctor Strange. There's another one, I can't remember the exact issue number, unfortunately, off the top of my head, where it is just a single story of Doctor Strange like tearing through this couple's house to fight a demon, and they have no idea what the hell he's talking about. He just seems like a crazy person destroying their house. That was a pretty good one too, but I've really been enjoying Mark Waid's Doctor Strange run, and issue 12 was the start of a story arc I really, really liked that I thought was just super fun, which was the Herald Supreme, which is not a Taco Bell dish, but Doctor Strange becoming the Herald of Galactus was the premise of this story arc, in which like an alien planet is about to be attacked by Galactus, but it has powerful alien wizards on it. And they're like, okay, well, one planet is known for defeating Galactus multiple times, so it obviously had to be a magic user that did it. So we'll go over there, find their most powerful magic user, and force them to tell us how they beat Galactus. And then he goes to Doctor Strange's house, and Doctor Strange is like, yeah, actually, I had nothing to do with Galactus anytime he showed up. And they don't believe him, and so they take all his magic and end up pushing Galactus into the magical realms of the Marvel Universe, which is just Galactus is like pure science fiction and doesn't belong in magical realms. And so it just leads to a pretty cool, pretty fun story arc in which, Doctor Strange doesn't want Galactus to consume magic because it will break the laws of reality. And it gets really like weird and cosmic and stuff, but it's just fun, and it's kind of been what Waid has just been doing in that book of taking Doctor Strange's weird magic crap and mixing it with like sci-fi. So we're getting a lot of like alien wizards and stuff like that in that series, which is really fun. And this was just it's kind of like the perfect arc to do that with. Galactus is just one of those characters who's always super fun whenever he shows up, because just it's ultimate stakes every time. And yeah, it was a cool, fun little story arc, and the first issue of it just it set the pieces up so nicely. You got to kind of love it.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm really glad. I keep hearing you talk about this. I'm really glad the Doctor Strange book, which Doctor Strange is just one of those characters, it's been around forever, that I don't know, it has really received the amount of love it deserves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And I'm going to run over here to another non-Marvel DC book for the time being. I think after this, I'm pretty much in Marvel and DC. All right. Now, this was a comic that just... it sold me on the title alone. Now, admittedly, it is from a friend of mine, but there's just no way I would have avoided this book, even if I didn't know the one of the creators. It's from Scout Comics, which is a small indie press, and it's called Metal Shark Bro.
Oh my god, I remember seeing this and thought about picking it up so many times.
I so recommend this book. It's from a friend of mine. It's from a friend of mine, Bob France, and Kevin Cuff, and the artist is Walter Osley. And okay, I need to. How do I explain this? Essentially, a shark eats this guy who fell off a boat, and instantly after the shark eats this person, a demon, Beelzebubra, shows up and tells the shark, "Hey, that guy's soul belonged to me, and you ate him." So, to punish the shark, this animal, this shark, he turns the shark into this half-human, half-shark mutant, and he names him Metal Shark Bro. And he retains kind of like the memories and physical abilities of the guy he just ate, which was a rock star. And he pleads with him like, "No, I want to be a shark. I don't want to be this ugly human thing." And he makes him a deal. He says, "Look, I have to take some souls and kill all these people. You go do it, and I'll think about turning you back into a regular shark." So thus begins his quest, and there's so much. This is like, the more sillier, fun Ninja Turtles types of books, the more fun kind of Lobo type of material, or Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
Bob France would be great at those characters. There's a lot of great tongue-in-cheek humor in this. There's a cut to the Vatican, which discovers the existence of Metal Shark Bro and his activities, because he's killing people left and right in order to get his prize. And a young priest walks up to one of the bishops who's high up, and he's asking about this, and he tells him he's not familiar with this half shark, half man prophecy, and he tells him, "Oh, it's in the secret Bible, the one with dinosaurs and Black Jesus." This is such a great book.
That is a really good line. Oh, man. And sometimes I just kick myself because I know I'll never write anything that funny.
It's so good. You can, I think, off Scout Comics website, you can get the first issue, but it's already been collected in trade, so I'd be willing to just recommend just getting the whole trade. It's worth your time. It's a ton of fun, and I can't talk about this book enough.
Nice. All right. Yeah, that one looks crazy. Just makes me want, I think it was either Steven Orlando or someone was tweeting about, or Steven Orlando or maybe Donnie Cates was tweeting about, "Yeah, let me do the gritty reboot of Street Sharks. I will fucking kill that book." I'm like, yes, please. I need that in my life. I'll read a Street Sharks comic, and if this guy wants to write it too, I'd be down. You just start it over as a spin-off crossover. There you go. Yeah. All right. I'll take back over.
Yes.
So my number 9 is a one shot from the world of Black Hammer, created by Jeff Lemire, and that is a story called Cthulhu Luis.
Ah,
Yeah, and
I
so
remember you talking about this.
so when Black Hammer had its like first break, because it was 12 issues, there was a break with a mini series, and then there was another 12 issues. There was like another mini series in there somewhere, but whatever. Um, it had its first break, and then the mini series focused on like the villains of the Black Hammer universe. It was called Sherlock Frankenstein and the Legion of Evil, or something like that. And Sherlock Frankenstein was like the Lex Luthor counterpart, whatever. And so it was about the daughter of Black Hammer who'd become a reporter, going around interviewing her father's old villains. And one of his villains was a guy named Cthulhu, Lou, like a guy named Lou. And he was a plumber who fell down an open sewer grate, and his body was possessed by Cthulhu, and so it's just like a big fat dude with like a big fucking octopus head and tentacle beard and stuff. It's very weird, like very very strange imagery. Um, and that story focuses on the daughter of Black Hammer kind of interviewing him and getting a sense of him. And then at the very end of that story, you meet his daughter, Cthulhu Luis, and it's a cute little girl with like a squid head. It's one of the most bizarrely adorable things. And then Cthulhu Luis just gets a one shot, and that's the book I want to talk about because it's just like really good horror comic. Because I mean, she's got a fucking squid head. She's gonna get bullied, right? And she hates going to school because she gets bullied. Like this girl puts a picture of like an octopus on her locker and says Cthulhu Luis's boyfriend, and like they call her squid tits and shit like that. Just like, you know, mean bully shit. And so she's planning to run away, and then you realize every night she hears her grandfather calling her name, and it's Cthulhu calling her name, and he promises to make her just like everyone else if she'll just give in to him, which is the most like, you know, very very like give in to the darkness kind of thing. Um, and so she does, and it's just this absolutely like horrific looking 2-page spread of her entering her school and killing everyone. You just see like just tentacles extending out the back of her, kind of like opening rifts and dimensions, and just like literal children being like ripped and strewn about the walls. It's like one of the most shocking page turns I've ever had in a comic. And then she's transported to a world where everyone else is just like her. So Cthulhu kept his promise and made her just like everyone else. And it's just the most like twisted, kind of like fucked up kind of ending you could get. I absolutely adored it. It was a great, great horror one-shot that is very much in the spirit of the good non-racist parts of Lovecraft. So I really enjoyed it for that part. And it had like that good like kind of defeatist ending, and I really do enjoy those. So it's really great comic. Great tie into the world of Black Hammer, which has been just a very strange and interesting series. I kind of described it as like Watchmen, but with a heart.
Oh, like TV Watchmen. All right, so that sounds amazing. I remember you talking about that, reviewing that. That kind of, I guess, the name Cthulhu Luis really stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now to go to my number 8 issue of the year, and it also is kind of, it really is kind of down and defeatist. Well, when you think about it, it does kind of lead into mine. It is issue 8 of Miles Morales' Spider-Man. And I have been a big fan of this. Saladin Ahmed and Javier Garin have been the team on this book. They've been putting together like a really strong series. Ahmed is a great ear for this character. Actually, I think he writes Miles better than Bendis did. It's just, you get a nice, stronger sense of who he is. He has been playing better within the Marvel Universe. It's a nice, fast-paced, funny series. And Garen's art is gorgeous. I can't talk enough about this. I feel like this guy is going to be a star. And what's interesting is at the end of issue 7, there's a cliffhanger where he's captured by this seemingly light-designed cyborg made of light and constructs and all sorts of things, kicks his ass, and he wakes up in this issue, at the beginning of this issue, and his mask is off. He is like strapped to some kind of like table in some sort of high-tech laboratory, and he's just talking to this like it's not a person, but it's like he looks almost gaunt and alien-like, and like maybe he's an AI as well talking to him, and he's basically explaining that we're making assessments of you and we're studying you. And he like breaks off his table, he escapes, and then he just instantly wakes up, and then he's still there. And okay, that's the first assessment. And he breaks out of this new trap. He gets going, and once again, he wakes up back in the lab each time. And to make this really claustrophobic is the pages are black outlined around the panels, and the panels are smaller than you usually see. And it really does give you like a tight sense of dread. And this issue, like, it ends really darkly because you get the sense that finally, he broke through, he beat the cyborg, he gets through the AI, and it was just another advanced assessment. Like, he doesn't escape by the end of this issue, and it looks pretty hopeless. His dad and uncle come to the rescue in the next issue, which, by the way, what they found out from the assessments and the studying, that hasn't come to play yet. So that's still been kind of out there lingering. But geez, what a good issue.
Cool.
Yeah.
Miles, I'm glad that his series kind of took off. I was worried that like he'd get really big in the movie and then there wouldn't be much to like experience of him after that. So I'm glad to hear that his series is reading really well, if nothing else.
It's great. It's better than because they initially, when they brought him into this the 616 universe, Bendis was writing the series, and it was okay. This is much better than what Bendis was doing. I don't know how it's selling, but creatively, this is the best I've read Miles in comics.
That's good. That's really good, actually. Wow. Cool. All right. I'll go ahead and go on to mine.
Yes. What is your number 8? We're at 8.
My number 8 is Lois Lane, number 1 by Greg Rucka, and I believe it's Matthew Perkins, if I'm remembering the artist's name correctly. This was a really, really strong issue. When we got this newer push on the Superman books, like about a year into Bendis's run, I was kind of getting a little sick of Bendis personally. He was starting to kind of annoy me with some of the choices he made.
Yes.
But then, like, seeing Lois and Jimmy get their own books again, I mean, it's been like, 30, 40 years since that happened. Since there's Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, and Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. And I was kind of excited for it. And Jimmy's book, like, I read an issue of it and thought it was just okay, but god damn, this is like the level of Greg Rucka's writing that I really, really kind of fell in love with, because he did a lot of issues of either Detective or Batman during the No Man's Land arc, and I love No Man's Land. Um, and it has that very similar feel to it, where he's really good at like kind of building up a really large narrative and navigating it naturally through really, you know, really intriguingly written characters. And so the series so far has been great, but just the first issue was damn near perfect. Like I don't know how many other number ones I've read that are as good as the first issue of Lois Lane. To the point where you certainly can read the other 12 issues of this series. I mean, I think we're at issue 6 or 7 at this point.
I think it's 6.
Yeah, and they're good. They are really, really good, and the story is really, really interesting. You don't need to read anything beyond the first issue if you want just like one of the best Lois Lane stories I've ever read. It's just, she's so perfect in it. Everything about how the issue works, to the way it ends, where she shows up the White House press secretary and just completely derails the entire press corps to asking follow-ups to her stories questions. It's such a good, like, you know, that's happened on occasion, I'm sure, where nothing will just be dropped. But like the idea that it's just one person that kind of uncovered it all, that is like a Superman level feat for a reporter. As far as like if Superman's actions are like impossible to the regular human, that is what she did in that issue is a Superman level feat to a reporter. She is the ultimate reporter in the DC universe. It's just such a perfect first issue.
She is. I love this issue. It just barely missed my top 10. It was in the running. I think I had like 20 issues I was choosing from, and that was in the mix, actually. And God, it's just such a good explanation of who Lois Lane is, and she's one of those underrated characters that really frustrates me because like she's such an awesome character, and what she can do is so great, and it really bugs me when people stereotype her as like a victim or a damsel in distress. And it's like, no, man, she's like one of the better detectives of the universe. She's a reporter. She's like, the classic heroic reporter concept, and better than Clark Kent. Superman is super bad, and but Clark is just barely not as good. I mean, the fact that he's ever been able to like get better exclusives because he has a little bit of an inside. But you're right. That could have. They could have just done a one shot, and that would have been enough as far as explaining. But I'm a little bummed that it's only a 12-issue maxi series. It'd be great if Rucka could just go on and do it as an ongoing.
I mean, that'd be really cool. Yeah, it would. So far, I've been really enjoying the series. I don't know, like there's a point to be made about the 12-issue series. Is like Tom King and Mitch Gerards talked about like people were like, I wish you were just doing a Mr. Miracle ongoing, and they made the point that there is something that can be perfected in 12 issues. It's like a magical number for comic books, and I do think that is a fair assessment of things. It's like ongoings are cool and all, and 3-issue minis are great too, but like sometimes you can do a 12-issue series. It can literally be perfect. And it's also really nice because once this is all collected in one trade, you'll have like anyone says, Lois Lane's just such a damsel in distress, and you just throw this at their face.
It's you bring that up briefly, but it's interesting how we're seeing Marvel and DC turn to and some of the other companies as well, but specifically Marvel and DC. In the last few years, it really does feel like they've changed things on how they put books out instead of like ongoing books that could go for decades. Now it's like, and I've complained about it. The renumbering, but I can see the case for that. Like, like, let's do this book at a limited amount so you can kind of get this book and get this volume and understand, where Spider-Man or Lois Lane is at this point, and then we'll do another one, so on and so forth. A lot of countries have done it that way, and America's been unique in that situation, but particularly with the superheroes. So yeah, I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder if that's where kind of the future is, in like limited numbered maxi and limited series.
Could be. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, there's something. I think it's just dependent on the author. There's something to just the ongoing run. Like the big 100-issue run is a cool thing to have from time to time too. But sometimes I think there are writers who just are not meant for a big extended run. I can never remember his damn name. The guy who's James Robinson. Yeah. That dude can't do runs. I'm convinced, based just off his Wonder Woman, because that was like 30 some odd issues, and it was a slog.
Yes. I don't want to bust too much on people, particularly Robinson, who gave us Starman. That's like a great series, but I have not liked anything he's done since Starman. And there have been times where I've wondered, like, did he just have Starman? And that was it. Like, that was his thing. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We've seen some very successful. Like, Vertigo tends to aim their titles around like 70-some issues. I think partly modeled after Neil Gaiman's Sandman, which ran about 70-some issues. And we've seen that over and over again. And yeah, there is something to be said for it. But I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of like unclear as to where we're going. But it does seem like the industry's going in a direction on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So if you're ready, I'm going to go to my number 7.
Sure.
And it's also Superman related. It is number 7. My number 7 pick is Superman Smashes the Klan, number 1. And that is from Jean Blun Yang, and art is by this is a name I cannot pronounce to save my life, Guriharu. And I recently heard that Guriharu isn't so much one person, but it's a team of artists that work together. And they've done some Marvel stuff, and this is the first DC thing I've seen them do. And it is absolutely gorgeous. It has this beautiful manga quality to it. It's nice and crisp and beautiful, and the colors just pop out. And it's an absolutely gorgeous book. And I'm sure you're familiar with this. It's the kind of modern, loose adaptation of the radio story, which I think it's called Superman versus the Sons of the Fiery Cross or something like that. And for those of you who don't know, back in the 40s was, I think, the radio show was the first Superman adaptation outside the comics, if I think. And it was really popular. So popular that a journalist who did a lot of research on the Ku Klux Klan really was having trouble finding people to, like, publish his work, because he had, like, went undercover and reported on a whole lot of their secrets. And he came up with a crazy brainstorm. He went to the writers of the Superman radio show and pitched them, Superman takes on the Klan, and I'll give you all this information on how the Klan works. And yeah, essentially Superman fought the Klan in fiction and in reality through this radio show, which is kind of amazing. And DC just recently published this, which is kind of like almost an all-ages book the way it's made, which is also great. Kids should learn the Klan is not good. And it actually does kind of adapt loosely the story where this young Asian kid joins a softball, not softball, but the local baseball team. The kids' baseball team, And his rival is the nephew of like one of the leaders of the local clan, and they're like, well, let's get this guy out of here. And of course, Jimmy Olsen is one of the like coaches on the team, so Superman gets involved to protect the kid. And it's really fascinating because this is, by the way, this is done in 3 parts. This is the first part. Issue 3 is coming out in, I think, this month or next month. And it's really cool because essentially it gives us classic Golden Age Superman before he could really fly.
Mm-hmm.
And before he had like this, these Goku level amounts of strength and abilities. He's just, a little bit, he's just, the basic Superman type. The 40s version. And this is one of the best depictions I've seen of his character. He is dealing internally as he's like being like, the Superman for everybody, dealing with his own issues of feeling like an outsider. And, he understands he's from an alien world, but he feels he has a lot of like issues about it. Like he feels like almost like a monster, and he's doing his best to fit in. Meanwhile, these kids, Tommy and Roberta, are also trying to fit in. Their parents moved from the Chinatown district of Metropolis into like the more white neighborhoods, and they're trying to fit in as best they can. So that parallel is very obviously, sewn into it as well. And geez, I don't know, it's just one of the better Superman books I've read in a long time. And one of the things that always irks me is when people say, how do we update Superman, for a modern time? Like, how do we make him relevant today? Which always bothers me because, like, he never went away. He's always been here. We talk about it like, oh, how do we make, Felix the cat relevant? Like, no, Felix has been gone for a long time. No one cares. What's funny is, like, this is 40 Superman, and this feels more relevant, than any Superman story I've read in, like, a few years. It's wonderful. And part 3 is coming up soon. I recommend getting the whole line.
Nice. Yeah, DC's been doing a lot of those like spin-off things. I tried reading 1 or 2 of them. I read the Super Sons Polar Shield project and didn't care much for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they've been definitely experimenting more with trying to do like different brands and stuff. Which makes sense because it doesn't saturate your Wednesday pickups as much that way, which is nice. It's more like it's more like just an OGN that comes out or something now, which is cool.
Yeah, and it's only $8, which is like only a couple bucks more than like a standard issue, and it's much thicker. Mm-hmm. I've noticed both Marvel and DC have been doing this thing of these youth kind of like centered trades because for those who pay attention to numbers, sales numbers. What's really doing well in comics is the young adult graphic novels. That a lot of them are not even superheroes. A lot of them are like, kind of like coming of age stories, and all types of different genres, not just superheroes. And of course, Marvel and DC want to get in on that action. So I know Marvel has been doing that with some of their like heroes that kind of fit into that young adult type of thing, like Miss Marvel, the Wasp, Moon Girl, and Devil Dinosaur, and I've seen those trades out there, and they look very similar to this Superman one, which I think fits nicely into that grouping.
Is the Wasp Nadia?
Yeah, Nadia Van Dyne.
Yeah, is she the one in the Wasp thing? I didn't know that. That sounds very tempting to me. She's kind of become one of my favorite Marvel characters.
Oh yeah,
I might have to go look for that.
Yeah, they've done. I think the first series of the Unstoppable Wasp as a young adult type of trade.
Oh, okay. No, I've got the normal trade of that. It's pretty much just like a standard thing. The way you said it made it sound like an original trade.
Marvel knows how to save money. They've just been reprinting their trades in this format.
Lovely. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. My next one, I'm actually going to alter slightly because I initially just had it as the number one of the series, but I changed what particular issue because I'm always on the rocks with Marvel. Like, I like Marvel characters well enough, but I don't like the way that Marvel always seems to emphasize the universe over the book. It always drives me crazy. I was reading the Magneto series, which was written by Cullen Bunn a couple years back, and like just randomly in the middle of an arc, it's like one chapter ends with him kind of like in this really messed up situation. You turn the page, and it's like there's at least a 3-issue miniseries that was part of some tie-in event that I completely missed, and now all the dramatic tension is lost, and it pissed me off. So I'm always on the rocks with Marvel, especially when you get to like team books. That's like the worst place for it with me. So I was really, really on the rocks with whether or not I'd enjoy this series. But the issue that like totally sold me on it, I'm 100% there, is Savage Avengers number 3.
Oh, wow.
Savage Avengers is just like the cover for issue 1, just it's so freaking cool. It's got Venom and Wolverine and the Punisher and Elektra and Brother Voodoo. But then the real selling point behind it all is Conan the Barbarian, because Marvel now has the rights to Conan the Barbarian. And it just makes you go, what the hell are they going to do with him in the Marvel Universe? That's going to be so weird. And he fits so damn well, especially being on the Savage Avengers book. And I think the important thing is, at least so far, Savage Avengers are not like an actual team. They're just a bunch of assholes who end up having to work together in one very particular circumstance so far. And the rest of the series is mainly just like following them, after that. And like waiting for them to come back together again. But the moment that just, like, I'm not even a big Conan the Barbarian fan or anything. I've, like, maybe read a Conan comic in my time. But this fucking line just killed me. Let me buy these people from you. That is the bargain for this amulet of power. Take it, or I shall run you through. Voodoo already tried stabbing the wizard in the heart. He has not been stabbed in the heart by me. Which is the most Conan the Barbarian line you could ever have. Absolutely adored it just on the strength of that line alone. And then, like, the rest of the issue is pretty great too. Wolverine's been like basically bled to death, so he's like collapsing, unable to even stand on his own feet. And Conan just like grabs the little dude by the ankles and just starts swinging him around and killing hand ninjas with Wolverine's claws. It's just so cool. And Conan's having the time of his life doing it. It's super fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good series. It's a fun series. There's all kinds of craziness going on. At the end of that issue, Conan gets possessed by a symbiote, which is cool. Shit just nuts. Shit just nuts is what it comes down to. And later on in the series, Conan starts picking up Frank Castle's machine guns and using them, which is, again, like, I love the pure testosterone of it all. It's super fun. Just a really fun series. I don't think it has anything to say. I think it's just having a good time. It knows what it is, and that's good enough for me.
Yes. And that's all there is to that. Enjoy these type of books.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Let's see. All right, now we're on to 6. I'm now up to 6, and hey, man, Chip Zdarsky has had an excellent year. In the last few years, he's been mostly known for Sex Criminals from Image, and he's been writing like crazy over at Marvel lately. And one of the things he's done this year has been Spider-Man Life Story, and issue 2 is my choice for number 6. And that was the 70s, and of course that always appeals to me. This issue takes place in 1977. I don't know how familiar you are with this miniseries, but the premise is the Spider-Man series starts when it started in the early 60s with Peter Parker being 15, but he doesn't age like slowly through time like comic book characters normally do. It's like in real time. And this premise has been done a couple of times in Marvel's, and John Byrne did this with Batman and Superman, the Generations miniseries back in the 90s, which was really good. Matter of fact, this is a lot like the Generations miniseries, except I think it's tighter. What's so cool is each decade he sews together the biggest events in Spider-Man's life and his biggest storylines in each one of these issues. And 77, is like, the death of Gwen Stacy and the first half of the Clone Saga. And, we get ties to Vietnam and what's been going on. Like, Flash Thompson went to Nam and was killed. Iron Man and Captain America have been fighting each other in Vietnam. Captain America went to fight for the U.S. forces, and then he realized he did not agree with what we were doing over there and started fighting the U.S. forces in Iron Man. And that's been going on, and that's prolonged the war up until like the late 70s. Because they've been doing a better Civil War in the background of this book than the Civil War series. And Peter Parker has been kind of like fighting within himself about like, should he go over there and like, join up and do something? But instead, he's decided to stay, and he's been Spider-Man, and he, as Peter Parker, he's become a scientist. He's been working with Reed Richards, and as well as the guy Professor Warren, the guy who created the Gwen clones. And it has this heartbreaking ending because he has been creating. The Professor Warren is such a creep who was in love with his student Gwen Stacy, and he made a clone of her after her death, and that's in the regular comics. But in this, he's made clones of not only Gwen but like Peter, and they're killed in this fight with Harry Osborn, who's taken over the mantle of Green Goblin because his father has been taken down. Mm-hmm. And during the fight, a couple of Goblin bombs fall into the laboratory and blow up the clones. That's when Peter is told that, like, no, that was the real Gwen, like in this clone tube asleep, and the real one was what he thought was his girlfriend. And Professor Warren had apparently made a switch at some point. And the issue ends with, of course, Warren and Harry defeated, and the clone of Peter leaves with the clone of Gwen. And Peter and Mary Jane essentially start their relationship out of, like, basically lost because she was dating Harry, and it's just a shockingly like dark, emotional ending for this. And it's because it starts out fun in the 70s with all that kind of like superhero stuff going on, but man, Zdarsky's really great at mixing really dark drama with humor, and he never misses a beat with the pacing of the story. I mean, each one of these issues goes all the way up to the 2010s. Like, everyone is action packed and great, and is able to good lord, the Clone Saga was like, I don't know, like hundreds of issues. Mm-hmm. He's able to do it in like, well, if you count the 70s and 90s, he's able to do it in 2. As well as mixing other elements from Spider-Man. It's absolutely brilliant work. I don't know how he did this. It's excellent writing. And of course, we also have, by the way, we also have Mark Bagley doing the art. and he is just a treasure. So excellent work.
Nice. Funny enough, my next book is also Spider-Man.
Yeah!
So mine is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man number 6. This is the series written by Tom Taylor, and this is so everything I wish more Marvel books would be. It's basically, hey, what if we wrote a Marvel book like a DC book where, yeah, there's like continuity and stuff going on in like the main book, but this writer's just doing his own thing over here. Like he'll maybe like pay lip service to it every now and again. Mainly he's just doing his own thing. He's like, all right, here's the status quo. If something like really big happens, I might deal with it. And these have just been like such great. They're either one and done issues in this series, or they're very short, like 2 to 3 issue arcs. I am just exhausted with like 12 issue arcs half the time in comics.
Me too.
Yeah, it gets old real quick. So, and it's just Tom Taylor has a really good voice for Peter Parker Spider-Man. There's just so many like absolutely awkwardly hilarious lines and moments, and yet he's got so much heart. There's another good issue where like he's doing the typical superhero thing of something is bad in his life and it's making him really angry, so he's going to go out on patrol and find someone he can just beat up. And then he does, and he's about to start beating this person up and realize this carjacker up and realizes it's a kid with a broken arm. And he's like, what are you running from, kid? And Spider-Man helps the kid steal a car and get away from the cops because he doesn't want the kid to go to jail. And it's a really, really strong issue there. But number 6 is incredibly a wholesome issue. It's got introducing Spider-Bite on the cover, and it looks like, oh, is he gonna get like a little kid's sidekick or something like that? And that's how the issue seems when it opens up. There's Spider-Man and this little kid running around defeating all these villains and stuff. And then like about halfway through the issue, Spider-Bite like coughs or something, and Peter just stops and says like, hey, you need to take a break or something? It's okay if you do. And the kid's like, no, I'm fine. I can keep doing this. And then you realize it's Peter Parker as Spider-Man going to a children's hospital and volunteering his time for this kid with some kind of like crazy disease. And it's all just him and the hospital staff like staging all these crazy elaborate things for him and the kid to do. And you're just seeing all the cool swinging fun action through the kid's point of view, which is just that's like everything the Spider-Man comic's about to me. And then like the issue ends when the kid's just like, because of his illness, he just can't anymore. Like he needs to take some time and just chill. And he's like really, really disappointed and about to throw a fit because he doesn't want Spider-Man to leave when he's like this. And Peter sticks around until he's able to recover a little bit and takes the kid out web slinging with him. And it's such a good, like, that's everything superheroes need to be half the time. And yeah, it's a really great series, and number 6 is a fantastic, very emotional issue that does a really good job of kind of displaying that. And it's funny because it's like one of the more like corny cliche things to do with a wholesome superhero comic book issue, but it plays it completely straight. It doesn't like, oh, well, we know most of the time you read stories like this. No, nope, we're just doing it. We're doing this story. I don't care if it's been done a million times. I'm going to do it right this time. It's great. So yeah, very, very good issue.
Oh, that's wonderful. It reminds me a little bit about the kid who collected Spider-Man, actually, which is a famous Spider-Man story, but kind of a similar vein, but I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's a really, really good series.
All right, now, taking a very dramatic different turn from the book you were just talking about, for my number 5, I want to talk about Black Widow number 4. And this was the miniseries They're currently doing another miniseries. But this is the one. This
Marvel.
Is the one. I know. This is the 5-issue miniseries by Jen and Sylvia Soka, and the artist is Flavorano, which is delicious. I love to put it on my spaghetti. Flavorano. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the Soka sisters are actually a pair of filmmaking sisters. They're directors, and they tend to make horror movies. Probably their best-known film is American Mary, which is about a woman who becomes a mob doctor, and it gets really violent. And that's all I'll say about that. This is Natasha. Apparently, I didn't read Secret Empire, so apparently she got killed and brought back. You know the thing.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is an interesting way because it kind of deals with the emotional issues of like going through that, and she is like at the beginning of this miniseries, like having an adventure with Captain America, but she after she's done, she like decides to take a break because she's still feeling a lot of negative energy, and she wants to put it towards something good. Like she's really mad and she wants to kill something, and she says it that way. Like I gotta find something really terrible to deal with. So she goes to Madripoor, of course, and that's where she discovers a horrifying thing that's happening in the middle of Madripoor. Essentially, she's discovered this crime syndicate that has this website that posts these live videos of torturing women and children for, the enjoyment of its subscribers. It's very much like Hostel, but imagine Hostel, and then Black Widow just shows up in the middle and kills everyone. That's what this series is, and she starts becoming involved, and she's in issue 3. There's a cliffhanger where she was trying to infiltrate it and is captured, and she is going to be made the subject of one of their next videos, of one of their live streams. And I chose this one because we get this kind of Luc Besson type of situation where it's like it's like The Professional, where she's in this tight situation. You can't. She's tied to a chair. There's like numbers of bids going on in the corners. There's this guy with this mask. He's gonna really enjoy torturing her, and we get this inner monologue of Natasha thinking about all the times she's been tortured and killed and beaten, and she just kind of lets loose. She easily escapes because this guy is not to the level of fighting a Marvel character. So she kills him instantly. She doesn't kill him. She beats crap out of him, puts him in the chair, puts his mask on, and when the guards come, they come guns ablaze and they take him out by accident and can't find her. And then we go into this brutal she just lays into all these people. That happens a couple times. This is one of the most visceral, brutal miniseries I've seen from Marvel in a while. She does not hold back on anybody in this series, and we're given good, ample reason to hate these people. We've seen some of the victims of this website and this syndicate. And of course, this is issue 4. There's one more issue after this, and the cliffhanger is pretty solid because I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, but what you think is the boss of this organization is not, and unfortunately Natasha was going after the wrong guy, only to find out it was too late. Soka Sisters have only done one. They are not doing the current miniseries. I don't know if they're going to be doing any more work with Marvel. I don't know if this was a audition for them doing a film. Which, oof, man, it might be an R film if they do a film, because they do very violent work. And this is a lot of fun. This is this makes Frank Miller's most violent stuff look like it's kid stuff. Really enjoyed it. I give this whole miniseries like a 5 out of 5 Ram chips. I don't remember a lot of people talking about this, but it's definitely worth everyone's time to seek out.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, go on to my next one, which is Adventures of the Super Sons, number 12. So I talked about earlier how I was kind of on board with Bendis' Superman writing at the beginning, and I think he does a really good job with like Clark Kent, and I like the way he writes the relationship with Lois Lane. I think he does a pretty good job with just the world of Superman, the character of Superman. He did not do a good job with John Kent.
Yeah.
At first, I was actually pretty hopeful about him because he gave us a couple like really good John Kent scenes and moments, and I really did enjoy it. But I don't know, man. Just instantly aging John Kent from 10 years old to 16 in the course of one story arc just instantly broke my heart, and I really feel like it ruined a lot of potential the character has. Because, we've done like 3 or 4 different teenage Supermans, depending on how you break it down. Because we've done
a few.
Yeah, we've done like Clark Kent as a teenager. We've done Connor Kent. We've done Superboy Prime. There's been like so many Superman as a teenager, or someone with Superman's powers as a teenager, because that often ends up being Supergirl's story too. She's still a teenager, and then she gets these crazy powers. Like we've just done that so often. We've rarely done anything where it's like it's a kid, it's a boy with Superman's powers, and that's one of the many things that I thought made John Kent like a character just rife with potential at that age. He didn't have to stay there forever. I'm not an advocate for that, but like it's just weird because John was pretty immediately paired up with Damian, and they have an absolutely killer dynamic as the Super Sons. And the thing is, Damian was introduced back in 2006 in beginning of Grant Morrison's run as a 10-year-old. And it took until the beginning of Rebirth for him to turn 13. And like that feels like a natural way to like very gradually age the character up. For John Kent, within the course of just 2, maybe 3 years, to go from 10 to 16 really it gave me whiplash, and I really did not like the decision. But for a while, I was really, really fortunate to have Adventures of the Super Sons running. And I talked about this book a lot, where I'm like, it's not the best series under the sun or anything. The plot is kind of like crazy all over the place, and I mean, you could maybe even make the argument just a little lazy and obvious. I mean, it's the Super Sons dealing with a kid version of the Legion of Doom, which you could make the argument that's lazy and obvious. I wouldn't necessarily disagree with the premise. But the thing that just absolutely sold the whole series for me was just Peter J. Tomasi 100% understood how to write their dynamic. They were absolutely perfectly written. There's a great moment in an issue where Superboy's been split up into Superboy Red and Superboy Blue, and that's adorable. And Damian just is like annoyed, and he's like, all right, fine, I'll go deal with this thing. And then he like ninja backflips his way through a room, taking out some of these wannabe Legion of Doom members along the way, and both of the Superboys just look at him do it and go, man, our friend is cool. It's like the perfect, it's just the perfect dynamic. They did such a great job with the series. It was so much fun, and it made the final issue just so bittersweet to me, because like for a while I was really, really hoping that like this was that Bendis was just going to do some kind of weird time travel shenanigans or whatever, but it seems pretty set in stone that John Kent's now 16 years old. He's hanging out with the Legion of Superheroes, and he's being written pretty much like generic Superman now. So I was just incredibly disappointed by that. And then it's a really nice, fun send off. It's really great series, and it breaks my heart because I think this could have been like a dynamic for the ages, which is crazy because like I think a lot of these characters have had that over the years. Obviously, Batman and Superman have their dynamic. A lot of people like ship Tim Drake and Connor Kent. I think Damian and John, or Batgirl and Supergirl have a pretty cool dynamic too. I think Damian and John were like the next logical extension of that, and they worked so well as a team dynamic. And aging John up just really does break that in a number of ways, which is disappointing, but it's comics. That's all I got.
Yeah, if the next guy comes along and doesn't like a thing, they don't have to do it, and that's what Bendis unfortunately had like a lot of money and power put to him, so he could pretty much get away with doing with getting rid of Connor and the way he's done.
John, yeah, like that's the thing for me.
John.
If they hadn't courted Bendis so hard, I don't think any other editor would have let any Superman writer get away with that decision.
Correct. Yeah, I would believe that.
And like that's the thing for me, and I don't want to rag on Bendis too much, but that's the thing for me is like aging John up does absolutely nothing for the story. Like even the story in which he ages up, he just spends like 6 years living in a volcano. Basically, that's the whole thing about his space adventures where he got older. He just spent 6 years living in a volcano. That's it. It was disappointing. So.
All right. Are you set for my number 4?
Yes.
All right, let's do this. All right. It's another number 8 issue, actually. I just noticed that. It is Captain Marvel, number 8. And this is from Kelly Thompson and Carmen Canero. Now, I can't remember if I put issue 1 on my list last time. I can't remember when it came out. It came out just before... it came out just after the New Year, so I wasn't able to do that. I had the miniseries, that's right, Life of Captain Marvel. During Life of Captain Marvel, Carol discovers that her mother was a Kree soldier that had gone AWOL and moved to Earth and became involved with her father. And that's been kind of just sitting there. And in issue 8, Falling Star, the start of this arc, the public discovers that, and you can imagine Carol becomes kind of a pariah after that. Like the media really starts going after her and taking her down, and people are protesting against her, and she's just starting to she loses her position in the military because of this, actually. And like people like protesting to send her home, which by the way, this came out a week. Actually, I think it was the week there was this controversy of people telling certain senators to go home because they were criticizing Trump. And because a couple of them are of different nationalities, but they're born here. And we had that kind of ugliness going on. And this week, this happens to come out. So this book really felt extremely current. Thompson does something interesting. She's really good at putting really human characters in like these strange, crazy fantasy worlds like Marvel and DC. And it opens up with her fighting this Cthulhu type flying squiddy monster. Saving people left and right. Spider-Woman saves her. She's not able to take it down properly or finish it off until this brand new hero shows up out of nowhere called Star. And that just also increases the pressure. Like, people are liking this character, who just showed up out of nowhere. And she's really rather depressed at the end. She has a lot of people calling her a hoax and a traitor. and she's thinking about going back into drinking. And that's when she has this kind of moment where her friends, Spider-Woman, Jessica Jones, She-Hulk, and a few Hazmat and a few others, basically come and they don't kind of get her out of it. But they do kind of get her a little bit out of her funk. And it ends with her being offered a chance to join the Kree. One of her villains, Minerva, shows up and says, "Hey, they hate you. You can come work with me." And it has that cliffhanger of what she's really going to do. Man, this was good. And Kelly Thompson's just, I'm in love with what she's been doing with this book. And she's had a really good year, too. She's been doing some really fine stuff on Sabrina, and there's a couple other Marvel titles she's been doing. And this is just perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Captain Marvel seems to just have that luck of, capturing the zeitgeist of a thing really well.
Yes.
Completely by accident most of the time, which is the funny part.
This was totally by accident. I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing that I think that's happened a couple times in Captain Marvel, where they've just stumbled onto a thing and suddenly everyone gets pissed off about it or whatever. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah, I think that's why she can be polarizing, because she actually kind of sticks her flag in the ground and said, this is what I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Care if we go ahead and move along to my next one?
No, let's stop.
Oh, okay.
All right. No, you know what? Never mind. No, let's keep going. What are we at? 5?
Sure. I lost count. I pulled up the covers so I could have them all in order. I don't know.
I think we're at 4. What is your number 4?
Okay. My number 4 is The Green Lantern, number 7. For a couple months, it had been rumored that Grant Morrison was going to come on to and do a Green Lantern run, and I was super hyped for that because, Grant Morrison has the perfect Justice League, and he's got the perfect Batman run and the perfect Superman run, and the Wonder Woman Earth 1 books are really good too. So it's just he's done the Trinity all well. He's had various moments on other big name characters. I want him to do the run. He's done the Flash before with Mark Millar. I just want him to do a run on every major DC character, the A-list.
Yeah.
He's doing it in reverse. He did Justice League first and then did all the other ones, but whatever works. So I was really, really hyped for him to do Green Lantern, and it's a really weird, trippy Grant Morrison book. I mean, it's Grant Morrison dealing with cosmic DC. That's kind of what you're bargaining for. And issue 7 is just it takes you to worlds I think Grant Morrison talked about when he started writing this series. He decided to read everything, because that's how he writes. Is he just goes back and he reads every issue of the character that he can. Most of the time, not every time, but most of the time. And so he was like, all right, I'm going to bring back a bunch of alien races that we haven't seen since the Silver Age and all this stuff. But issue 7 is probably the most personal story you get with Morrison. And it's all about Hal Jordan going inside the ring. And I'm pretty sure, based on some of the dialogue and stuff in it, that this has already happened and he'd just forgotten, and now he's back and he kind of remembers it all. But there's this woman he meets inside the ring, and he's not sure what's going on or where he is, but we kind of know. And he comes to the realization that he's inside the power ring, and the woman that's been his companion the whole time, her name is Pingo Ring, Power Ring, just said really fast. He comes to the realization, you're the Ring AI, and it's just this, we got to do this together, really cool moment and everything. As all kind of goes wrong, and just all it takes is the will, the hope to make it all happen. And it's just the most Hal Jordan moment you can really get. And the thing that I absolutely love about it is just the very end is this absolutely beautiful image that really kind of does encapsulate the character perfectly. And it's Hal Jordan after he's free of being trapped inside the ring. He kisses his ring as like he does the oath and kisses the ring when he says Green Lantern's light. And that's the last image of the issue. And it's just it's such a good thing. Like, again, it's one of those things where when Morrison came on the book, he was like, all right, I'm going to do a lot. There's going to be a through line. It's going to be much more of a space procedural. Issue 4, he's fighting God, but whatever. It's going to be very much a space procedural, which is the most on-brand thing Morrison could do.
Yeah.
Space procedural and more standalone stories. And it definitely has that. The stories tend to be connected to one another a little bit more than I thought it was going to be when he first talked about doing it. But issue 7 is the most standalone you get out of everything. And it is just a really, really great single issue. The title of the story, too, is called Emerald Sands, which is really cool. It is just an absolutely... It's the Hal Jordan story in a number of ways, which is great.
I suspected that Morrison's Green Lantern would be somewhere on this list, because he's been kind of nailing it.
It's been so good. I love Green Lantern just one issue storytelling. The other thing I want to talk about is Liam Sharp's art on the series has been absolutely stunning. Liam Sharp's one of those guys who's been in the industry for decades, but is like he's never really caught on in a big way. And you know, at the beginning of Rebirth, you had him doing Wonder Woman with Rucka. I think it's Rucka, right? Yeah. Yeah, Rucka. Yeah, you had him doing Wonder Woman with Rucka, and that got him some attention. And now that he's doing Green Lantern with Grant Morrison, it's just there's a lot of attention on the book right now, and a lot of attention on his art. And he's just, you really get the sense, and you just look at it, that this guy is drawing 30 years of comic book drawing experience, and he's laying it all on the page. Like, this is his. You've never noticed me until now. Well, now you're going to remember. And it's just everything is super highly realistic. And the issue, since they're inside the ring, there's like so many cool panels where he keeps using the Green Lantern symbol as like the panel breaks and stuff. So you get a lot of round panels, which is really, really awesome. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Really, really solid issue.
All right, let's see. Let's go on to my number 3. Here we go. Getting in a home stretch here. All right. My number 3 is The Unstoppable Wasp, number 4. And what's hilarious is this has legacy numbering on it, where the legacy number on this is 12.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, man. Anyway, this is from Jeremy Whitley, and the artist from Superman Smashes the Klan did the entire second volume of Unstoppable Wasp, Goro Hayu. And because of like fan demand, they brought this series back for one more run, because the trades were selling very well. And that's something, I don't know, I think sometimes we need to kind of reevaluate how we judge sales, because sometimes the single issues, the floppies, don't sell well, and then they sell well in trade.
Yep.
And that's been going on. Like, Miss Marvel does okay in the floppies, but her trades sell very well. They're usually in the top 10 every time they come out, which has been helping her series for the last few years. And this came back actually for one more run of 12 issues. Unfortunately, it ceased this year as well. But damn, this was a good one. Okay, a lot of this series dealt with the kind of girl scientist laboratory that Nadi had built in the first volume. And they're getting together and making presentations for, like, the big deals of the Marvel Universe, and showing what their teams can do. And Janet has sort of, helped her along with the the setups and the setting up events and presentations. And Nadia is getting ready to do this all the while we have, the usual, like, villains shenanigans going on in the background of people trying to sabotage them, from the Red Room villains. And she's dealing with that stress and the stress of putting this on, and you see her getting more and more intense during this. And this issue, she snaps, and we discover something about her. We discover that she's bipolar.
I could have told you that from issue 1.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, I knew there was something maybe, but this issue, it just comes ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she even attacks just out of frustration, and just she has a panic attack and just, like, throws one of her scientists to the side. And it was really jarring. This and the next issue, I chose this one because it's the first part of that. And it was quite a shock, because this character, and you've read her, she's like a really sweet, loving, outgoing, optimistic person, and she has this, this flip side, and that felt really strong to me, because I've known some bipolar people, and it's tough. It's tough on them, and it's tough on their friends and loved ones. And this doesn't hold back on any of those kind of, like, real world applications for that. And it goes, when you go back and read previous issues, like all the way back to 1, it does kind of create more of a it creates more of a dark side to those, because she's really super cheerful, and that's just her being on the high point of that kind of problem. And it does add a new texture to that. And wow, this was good. This is just such strong writing, and you just feel terrible. And the next issue, she just completely devolves, and just goes into, she has this tiny lab that she shrunk into a pendant, and she just goes all the way microscopic into it to get away from everybody. And therefore one of them has to go get her. And this is really good stuff. The writing on this is just, this is really smart, thoughtful writing that tells me that this person, Jeremy Whitley really knows what he's doing when he's talking about these kind of disorders, and how they kind of, like, affect the people around it. Just awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's a very, very good series. I haven't had a chance to read anything from the second volume yet, but I really, really do want to. Nadia just instantly became one of my favorite Marvel characters after her first 2 volumes. I just absolutely love her personality. And yeah, just the way she acts, she is just bouncing off the walls in those first 2 volumes, and, like, you just... I can just tell the way they're setting it up, that they're setting her up for a drop like that. So I am very interested to read more of the series. It does sound very good.
And I'm really happy they did this in, like, a mainstream superhero title, because, emotional issues in superhero comics is usually, well, let's face it, kind of goofy, like, oh, hey, my face got burnt, therefore I'm crazy. That's pretty much how they deal with, psychosis. So to have, like, a more realistic portrayal of something that happens to people, like, a lot of people, I know in my daily life have some form of, depression or bipolarness. And of course, there's going to be some heroes and villains who have that. So, God, that was just excellent work.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead and go on to my next one, which...
You're number 3.
Yeah, this is where things start getting a little weighty, which is, I guess, to be expected. So my number 3 is Female Furies from DC. This was... I'm going to go with just issue 1 of it. It's a 6-issue miniseries that DC put out. Issue 1 again, I think half the time when the miniseries is just how well can you write the first issue, um, because like the rest of it's great. No lie, but the first issue is just wow. Um, so Tom King and Mitch Gerards, of course, did Mr. Miracle, and I'll tell you that series is going to be it's going to be on that Watchmen level. That's going to be the thing you're going to see in like college bookstores and stuff all the time. People are going to be talking about that book for years to come. And right off the tail of that wrapping up, we had Female Furies start. And it was like, I mean, they had Mitch Gerards do the covers for it and stuff, so they're really trying to kind of capitalize off the fame. But it was, the question became, all right, what is the writer going to do here? What is going to be the take? Because Mr. Miracle is such a very personal story about dealing with mental illness, really, when you get right down to it. And Female Furies decides to take a very different direction than what you might have expected coming out of that, because Female Furies is Me Too, the comic book.
Yes.
This entire series is just like moment for moment just about the Me Too movement, and I just love the way that it starts, to be honest with you. They do a really cool thing whenever they do flashbacks. The art style shifts and it looks more like Jack Kirby kind of art, and then when it's excuse me, when it's in the current day, it gets to be more modern, standard comic book style. But it's like really weird and creepy because they do flashbacks of like when Darkseid was first rising to power on Apocalypse, and Granny was one of his generals, and like they succeed, they take power from the old gods and all this stuff, and Darkseid demands that Granny give herself to him entirely if she wants to move up any further within the ranks of Apocalypse. And and Granny, like, she's like shamed by it, but she takes the deal, kind of thing, and she sleeps with Darkseid. And that allows her to climb the ladder, as it were. And then she starts the Female Furies as like the special ops team, but no one on Apocalypse takes them seriously. And when one of the generals of Apocalypse takes an interest in one of them, they're all like so jealous of her and everything. But then he is like sexually harassing her, sexually abusing her, and like their quote unquote training sessions are just grope fest for him and stuff. And it's just so it's very interesting because I'm more of a fan in general with the Fourth World stuff to get like super mythic. Like I like the idea, you got that scene at the end of Superman the Animated Series where Superman beats the living shit out of Darkseid, but doesn't want to kill him, and instead does the thing that should be more cruel, which is to throw Darkseid to the people that he's enslaved and let them handle him. And they pick him up and take him back inside, and he stops him for one brief second as Superman looks on in shock and says, "I am many things, Kal-El, but here, I am God." And then, like, I'm more of a fan of that, where, like, everyone on Apocalypse worships Darkseid as an actual god. They've completely drunk the Kool-Aid. But this is an interesting series in which things are taking much more of a metaphorical approach, and kind of taking the circumstances we've heard of and comic bookifying, leveling them up to display just the absurdity of what people deal with. And the interesting thing is, throughout the series, you got like the other Female Furies listening to their counterparts say that she's being harassed, she's being abused, and they like refuse to believe her. Because it's like, oh, you're just lying, you're just making it up, you've been given this great opportunity, and it's just that's been another part of the Me Too movement that has been focused on, is the amount of stuff, like the amount of women that have been shut down by other women in different positions and stuff like that. It's just a really, really fascinating, interesting look into kind of the politics of the Me Too era, and not even the politics of it, the dynamics, I guess, of the Me Too era and what's happened. Because Granny Goodness is like the woman that just accepted the way things were and just expects the next generation to do the same, like she did, to just suck up the pride and just accept it so that she can continue to move forward. And it's like really, really interesting in that regard. Very, very like hard to read series, honestly, and in a really good way.
Yeah, I was watching you review this, and this got a lot of people talking. Which, to be honest, like a fourth world book tends to not get as much discussion, which to me, says, hey, this book definitely succeeded in getting out there and having people debate about it, and on the various issues on it, and that's what I like about this kind of stuff. You can actually be about something, even if you're dealing in fantasy characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that was great. That was your number 3?
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, let's do it. Number 2 for me, and I don't think there's been one year where Daredevil has not been on this list. And number 2 is Daredevil number 5 by Chip Zdarsky and Marco Checchetto. And
now the question is, how many times has Daredevil number 5 specifically been on the list?
I'd have to go back and check. Probably twice. I would not be shocked. But as I mentioned, Chip Zdarsky is tearing it up right now over at Marvel. And my particular favorite is his run on Daredevil. And of course, that's one of my favorite books. But, oh boy. He has been going with I don't know if you know the premise of his run so far, but at the end of the previous run, Daredevil was in a car accident, and like a simple car accident, and he had gotten out of the hospital. And in the beginning of Chip Zdarsky's run, he's back on the streets as Daredevil, and he punches a random thief, leaves him for the cops, and takes off. And that thief dies from head trauma.
Mm.
He hit him too hard, and the police are like turning things up, looking for him. By the way, Wilson Fisk happens to be the mayor of New York right now, so he of course wants Daredevil off the streets. We go through this really violent exchange with him and this new police detective who is from Chicago and made it his business to take down Daredevil, which he does in issue, I think 3 or 4. And he is saved by the Punisher. The Punisher says, finally, you've seen the light. You're killing guys like me. And Daredevil tells him to screw off. I didn't kill him. I've been set up. Mm-hmm. And we start this kind of mystery for about an issue or two. Was he set up by Wilson Fisk or the Owl or someone else? And by the way, his shirt was all messed up, so he took one of Punisher's shirts. So the first half of this issue, he's taking on the Owl's henchman in a Punisher shirt. And he is not holding back. He is fighting and going taking way too many risks. He is saved because he would have been killed because he just put himself in too much danger. He's saved by the other kind of street level defenders, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. And they make the plan okay, look, we're going to tear the streets up, find out who's framing you. And Daredevil eventually kind of comes to the realization that, no, nobody framed me. I really did kill him. I hit him too hard. And that's something superhero books, and including me, I write this stuff too, and avoid the idea that if you hit somebody hard enough for them to knock out, they might not get up. Mm-hmm. And superhero and to be honest, all media tend to forget that part. And it deals with what next. And he's sitting in his apartment, and Spider-Man just shows up in full costume and serious. He's not making jokes. He's not being friendly. He's not being friendly neighborhood. He comes and gives him this speech, like, you've killed a man. I've been there. It's horrible. I've had to do a lot of soul searching after. Had to learn to be better than this, to be better at what you do. But what do you do next? You terrorize your neighborhood. You fist fight cops. I just came from your last sloppy fight where our buddies had to save your butt. You're a mess. You're in trouble and you're in a suicide mission. I've come to tell you, you're done. And he tells him you're right, gives him his mask, and quits. And that's just issue 5. This series has been going in so many different directions that you think Daredevil and Kingpin can't possibly go in any more circles than they already have, and Chip Zdarsky finds this path, and it's really fresh and exciting. And every issue is just like some kind of thrill ride, even if it's just characters just kind of meeting and talking, and you don't know where the situation is going next. And Marco Cicchetto has been doing most of the art. They have some replacement artists, but his art is just, God, it's so good. This is easily probably one of the best books out right now.
Nice. That's awesome.
I do recommend to you, since Tom King is finishing up on Batman, anybody who digs Tom King stuff, I think you might dig the Daredevil run from Chip Zdarsky.
What issue is that?
16. 16
Okay.
just came out. I would be willing to buy you a trade.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, okay, good.
All
right, I won't.
You don't have to do that.
You twisted my arm.
Yeah, I might. It's one of those things. I've given Daredevil like 2 or 3 chances because I've always heard interesting things. Steve actually sent me Bendis's final Daredevil book from his run as a Christmas gift, and that was like really, really interesting. So I might have to go give Daredevil another try because this does sound really, really cool. I like things that play with, the stuff that superheroes just kind of like do without thinking of. And yeah, like if you hit someone hard enough to knock them unconscious, you are giving them a concussion, and some people can't survive that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it deals with the what ifs. And Kingpin's not really involved in this issue, but he's been going through this real arc where he has completely he's the evil crime mayor of New York City. And yeah, there's a bunch of metaphors, but he's actually legit trying to leave his crime universe behind, and like he thinks now this is real power, and it's not as easy as he thought it was going to be. And oh boy, these characters almost feel new after reading them all my life.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's the strength of a good run, when like the dynamic just pops all over again, I think that's a really good point. The hero-villain dynamic just popping all over again is the strength of the sign of a really strong run.
Oh, and you're digging Elektra over in Savage Avengers. She's been showing up in Zdarsky's run, by the way. She's been kind of in the last few issues, she started kind of retraining him a little bit. Nice.
Alrighty. Go ahead and go on to my number 2. Batman 85. I don't think it should surprise anyone that Tom King's Batman made it on here. And it's just, this is the end of the run proper. We're still getting Bat-Cat. That's going to, get him to his 100 issues, but not the way he'd initially intended. Which is, you got to do what you got to do. The rumors around why Tom King was pulled, or why Tom King's run was cut short, have been kind of interesting. It was like, it got announced that he was, shortening his run on the book. At the same time, like a week later, it got announced that he was helping write the new Gods movie with, I can't remember her name, Ava DuVernay, maybe?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I guess it's to be expected that he has to pull off of the weekly premiere book where he's expected to keep up with what everyone else is doing to some extent, even though his run has been pretty standalone. But it's just, God, it's such a good damn run, and it ends with such a surprising villain when you get right down to it. I never thought that Thomas Wayne Batman from the Flashpoint universe would be the ultimate villain of a Batman run and work so frickin' perfectly. Because, like, the whole run is set up that, like, Bane's the mastermind behind everything. And he is, by and large. And then in the final arc, called City of Bane, of all things, you realize that Thomas Wayne Batman had just been playing him. And of course, so who is Batman's greatest enemy? Batman. And it also, like, the whole point of King's Run was to answer a question, which is, can Batman be happy? And the answer we get here is incredibly satisfying in a number of ways to that. I thought it was a very strong, very, very, very great run, and the final arc does feel a little bit rushed at points, but I do think that the final issue ends really, really well. I think it is a very, very good, very strong ending to the series, to the run. And it kind of retroactively will make Bat-Cat a like epilogue, which I think is kind of perfect because the first arc with Catwoman in it, or not the first arc with Catwoman, the first Catwoman centric arc in King's Run is called Every Epilogue is a Prelude, which is kind of it's a very emblematic thing about their relationship, and so I'm excited for that book. But yeah, the final issue of this series was just it's so good. Just everything Tom King does. He's got the Midas touch in comics right now, and I absolutely love it.
I gotta say, a lot of people were kind of like debating on the whys and whether it was good or not that his run was shortened. But I gotta say, I'm deeply impressed, especially right now where, we were just talking like, how runs can be like 12 issues and stuff like that. To hit 85, I think, is, in this day and age with comics, I think is very impressive. Mm-hmm. And just speaks to the fact that he was able to, like, excite fans and anger fans. Because, I can't remember if it was Chris Claremont or Peter David who said, like, if they're angry, they're buying your book.
And that's probably like why this comic book community can get so toxic at times. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a run for the ages. Honestly, after reading Grant Morrison's Batman run, I wasn't sure if we ever needed another run on Batman or if it was just better to just leave it, especially after dealing with Snyder for years, who was just very much a retread of a lot of those same ideas that Morrison had been playing with. And by the time I was done with Snyder's, I'm like, okay, can we just stop doing big statements on the character and runs and just do fucking Batman stories, please? And Tom King was like, okay, but what if no? And I give you a big statement run on the character. I'm like everything about it shouldn't work for me, which I think, but everything about the premise shouldn't work for me, which is what I think makes me so impressed with how good the run is. And so it is an absolutely epic series, and I really did truly love it. It made me cry at several points, so you got that going for you.
That's wonderful.
It's also got like this great little tie-in moment because I think it was in, I don't even remember the issue it was in. Maybe it was in Detective 1000. He gets like a 2-page story where Superman is like, I found the most rare piece of kryptonite ever. It's called platinum kryptonite. And if you use it, it will give you all of my powers for your entire lifetime with no drawbacks. And I think you're the kind of person that could really use this. And that little 2-page story ends with Bruce just looking at this piece of platinum kryptonite and asking Alfred, am I good enough? And then the series ends with him deciding, no, but this other person is, and he gives the platinum kryptonite away. It's absolutely fantastic. Really, really love it. Really, really good ass series.
Oh, that's great. What are your feelings towards the Batcat coming up?
I mean, I'm super hyped for it. The way he's written Batman and Catwoman's relationship has been absolutely perfect. I really do hope that he gets to like finish the wedding this time. I really hope that's the end of the series, and that might be the permanent change going forward. But I've completely given up on trying to predict the direction of what Tom King's going to do with the story. He keeps me guessing.
Agreed. I am intrigued by the fact that Phantasm is coming to the book. That's a character I've been hoping would find her way into the DC universe since Mask of the Phantasm.
She's in the Batman Beyond comic run from the middle of the New 52.
I guess.
So you got that.
It's just the future is like murky. Like, like the future books are like, I don't know what time. I mean, even Marvel is like that. I don't know what timeline is the future. I don't know what feels like set in stone or not. But yeah, that's really exciting. All right. Okay. Hey, do you have any honorable mentions you want to mention before you do one, or?
Give me a sec to think of one. I assume you have one, so give me a sec to think of one. You go ahead and do yours.
Gotcha. Because like I said, I think I had about around 20 that I set aside for the year that I thought was eligible to be, my top 10. And, just roughly like the Magnificent Miss Marvel #1 was really good. Issue 7 was really good. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 100 was great. That was an excellent book. That almost made this list. That came really close. If I had an 11, that would have been 11. As well as like Lois Lane #1, Wonder Woman #75. So yeah, I had a bunch of stuff just barely miss. Like I had to kind of. This was an emotional. I tend to feel like this list should always be emotional. Like, what's the ones that really grab me? And don't like objectively, don't base everything on objective feelings. Like what's the ones that really kind of excited me? So yeah, it was hard. This was a hard year. This was really good. There was a lot of good books, and I didn't even read Immortal Hulk. So I keep hearing how awesome that series is.
I've not heard anything about it.
That's another great one too. I haven't read it, but I've just heard every review just lose their shit about it. It's Al Ewing, and he went all in on the horror aspects of the Hulk, and it's been very. The sales have actually, in some cases, have been topping Batman.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's been in the top 5 a lot, top 10. And it's just a book like I didn't have the money to stretch. And I'm kind of regretting it because they had a really awesome year. I'll probably most likely get some trades of it this year to read and review.
Okay, cool. One thing that almost made my list just because I thought it was like some fun stories in it was what was it? DC's Dog Days of Summer special.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's just a fun little thing. I like the theming of it. They did like all these. It was like kind of floating around like maybe it'd be my number 10 or something. But they like did some theming, so it was like all animal based characters. So you had like a Killer Croc story, a Beast Boy story. Steven Sejic did some art for it, and I love Steven Sejic's art. So he did the G. Will Wilson wrote and Steven Sejic drew a Wonder Woman story that was all about Ferdinand the Minotaur and how the fact that like he devoted himself to Wonder Woman and being like the best servant or whatever of her. And so when the Justice League's having a beach party, he's like, "Oh yes, I shall cook for you. What do you desire?" And like they don't think about it, and they say, "Oh, let's just do a barbecue, like or a grill, like burgers and stuff." He's like, "Oh, yeah, yes, okay." And it's just he's sitting there cooking burgers, and he's a bull, and it's super messed up. And like Cyborg comes over and asks for one, and he's like, "Yes, please eat the flesh of my brethren." And he's trying to be all positive about it, and Cedric just draws like the most like disheartening smile. And he's got like the eyes are like dead. And this big grin on poor Ferdinand's face, and he's got to try to find a way to feed the Justice League without killing bulls, and also not just going vegetarian. So he goes and figures out, or goes trying to find someone that does clone meat and all this. It's just a nutso story. There was another good story. I believe it was Steve Orlando wrote the Killer Croc story, and that one was about like Croc finding out that a kid in the bayou in New Orleans area that he'd tried to set up on a right path because the kid had like the same kind of thing as him, but was getting into the gang life anyway. And Croc, before he left the bayou and went to Gotham, he tried to set this kid up on a better path to have a better life, and ultimately the kid's like, "No, I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna help me. You're gonna teach me everything you know, or otherwise I'm gonna rat you out to the police." And so that story just has like the most Batman story ending, where Batman shows up to "Hey, what's up? I'm recording. Thank you for that. Okay, this is cool. Sorry, my wife just came in and dropped off the lizard."
Oh, hey.
It just had the most Batman story ending, wherein Killer Croc murders this child that wanted to be just like him, and just leaves his body in the swamp and lets Batman take him away. It's just like the most like that. Just I love those downer ending kind of things. It works so well with Batman stories. So yeah, really, really good issue. There's just I like those little collection short story things too. And so Dog Days of Summer was a cool title. It's just fun.
That sounds fun. All right, are you ready for my number one single issue of 2019?
Yes.
And you at home, I assume, because you've been watching this video for 2 hours, unless you skip to the end. All right, here we go. My number one single issue of 2019 is House of X number 2 from Jonathan Hickman. And let's see, the artist is Pepe Lazar. And I don't know how much you know about what Jonathan Hickman's doing with the X-Men.
Not much.
He's essentially kind of rebuilt them, and Charles has made a peace pact with the other kind of like big leaders of the mutant world, including the villains like Magneto and Apocalypse, and they have created their own nation. And they're on this kind of living island called Krakoa, and they've decided to make Krakoa the nation of mutants. And
that always works so well.
It does, but what they seem to be learning from the past, and that is going to have a lot to do with Moya Matagat, who's been like a secondary X-Men character since the 80s, late 70s, or something like that. And I've never been quite clear if she's ever even had powers, or she's just a human scientist that works with mutants and is an ally. This issue explains everything about her. Now, she's actually was supposed to be dead, and she's not dead, and this explains why, because her mutant ability is resurrection. And she it gives a quick biography of her first life, and essentially she dies and wakes up back in the womb, remembering her life and knowing exactly who she is. And she realizes she's a mutant, and it goes through several lives she's had, and in a way, she's kind of created different timelines of X-Men in the Marvel universe. She first, when she realizes she's a mutant, she tries to reach out to Professor Xavier, but really isn't impressed by him, and goes and does her own thing by trying to cure mutants and cure herself. And that doesn't go well when her research lab is blown up by Mystique and Destiny and Pyro, who shows up to kill them all. And Destiny is kind of a psychic character and is able to realize that she has regenerated. And they have this conversation about, how you are going about this wrong, and you have to start over. And she decides to kill her, so she starts over again to try something different. And she has this probably the coldest line in this issue, where she tells Pyro to kill her, and she tells her burn her, and slowly, so she doesn't forget how dying feels.
Jesus.
I know. And then whoosh, boom, and then she starts again. And we go through a couple of different lives, including one that feels most like the most likely, traditional X-Men universe, where until recently, where things really got crazy over the last 10 years. And she becomes an assassin and starts killing people left and right, and is killed. And then she decides, okay, I'm going to the bad side. So she joins Apocalypse, and that doesn't work out. We go back to the womb one more time, and she has this realization of what she needs to do. And we go a few years later, when she is a young woman, and she meets Professor X again, and they have this lovely chat on this bench for a second, for about a page, and he goes, wait. He realizes that they have this weird familiarity to each other. He goes, I'm sorry, do we know each other? And she says, yes, we go back quite a few ways. And he goes, who are you? And she goes, why don't you read my mind and see? And then it ends with him just being stunned of what he's seeing, where he sees all the life she has lived up until then. Mm-hmm. So they decide basically to learn from her mistakes on how to build, what they're doing now. And it's one issue, and it has so much going on here, and it just delivers on building this character who's kind of been around for a while, and really there's been a little bit of a mystery of what she's all about. And it's really exciting. Jonathan Hickman goes really into the hard sci-fi of stuff, and he has these charts on every issue and what they represent, and this one charts her various lives at the end. So you get to see what she's doing. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. There's the many lives of Mora X, and it charts where things went wrong, and how we got to here. Good Lord, what a great issue! This is the kind of book. My number one choices are usually based on what makes me excited to read comic books. Every once in a while, we think about giving up and quitting or reading less. You pick something up that kind of gives you a resurgence of why you love this stuff in the first place. And this year, that was this issue. Absolutely, I read X-Men now because of this issue.
That's really cool. I remember hearing a lot about Hickman's X-Men when that first started, and it's really interesting to see what a resurgence they've had the second that Fox didn't have the rights anymore. I wonder if Hickman just had this run pitched 10 years ago, and they're like, okay, yeah, start writing it, really get it perfected, we'll pay you in the meantime, but you can't publish it until we get the rights back from Fox. And
that's probably not that far from the truth, because what I've heard is the people who are working on the last kind of relaunch of the X-Men knew this was coming. Which is, I don't know how exciting that is to work on a book, knowing that it was all going to be torn apart. Which is too bad. The last relaunch with Kitty Pryde kind of being the leader of the X-Men was a pretty good run. They had some really good stuff in there. But this one is just This one really does take things up like a level. Like this one really does feel like this has a lot of staying power, and it's going to be relevant to like the rest of the Marvel universe. That you feel Marvel has put their chips behind this.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that they finally like just let them have good books. Same thing happened with Fantastic Four. It's like, oh no, Reed Richards and Sue Storm are dead, and we can't do anything interesting with their characters until the rights come back.
I know, that's so irritating. It's like, especially when you're old enough to know, what's going on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're a kid and you're ignorant of it, that's one thing. But,
yeah, you just think that X-Men books suck.
Oh my god, it was so, the last 10 years has been so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the 90s, I can't express to you enough how much Marvel was just about the X-Men for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, maybe Spider-Man, but X-Men and Spider-Man, and oh yeah, we have these other characters.
Yep.
They were so devalued. The Avengers lines and the Fantastic Four were so devalued. They let Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld just have them for a year. So yeah, and to have things flipped around so much in the last 10-15 years has been a little surreal. Just So yeah, it's really exciting to see a new voice on this line, and also not trying to fit into a trend. This really does feel like it's trying to set its own tone and trend.
Mm-hmm.
And they built the X books around Hickman's X-Men really does feel that way. Like it's really inspiring, like a bunch of really interesting titles.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I'm glad.
So that's my... thank you. Why, thank you. Okay. All right, now, hey, Ian, what is your favorite single issue of 2019?
Harleen #1.
There we go.
Yep. This book I've been waiting for, like, I guess for a long time. I'm getting older, Manos. I'm 29. And so, like, you know how it is. Like, what used to be a long time to you isn't really a long time to you. Like, I remember in like 2015 or so, I saw Steven Sejic posted on DeviantArt his Harleen fan comics. And they were just like, he was bullshitting, but he's just like, oh yeah, this is just me experimenting with black and white, and I had some cool ideas for Harley Quinn, but it's just a fan thing. It's not going to be anything serious. Don't get your hopes up. I'm not going to finish it. And yeah, the art was a little rough. Like some stuff was unfinished. Some like you had like the outline of the body, but it wasn't like fully painted, rendered, whatever you want to call it. But the story was just. It was the Harley Quinn story I'd been waiting for years, because like I actually really like Harley Quinn as a character, but she has like 3 or 4 good comic books, and one of them is an adaptation of her best episode of Batman the Animated Series, right? So it's just like Harley Quinn is just not like people don't get the character in the comics. I honestly believe that they just don't understand her. Or at least what I find appealing, what I find interesting about her. But Steven Sejic in this little fan post on DeviantArt, just everything about a Harley Quinn story I always wanted to read. Mm-hmm. And then, like, I just talked about it constantly. Anytime I had the chance, I'm like, oh yeah, you should go read this, or oh man, I really hope that this becomes a thing. And then, like, in late 2017, he's like, I'm putting in a pitch with DC for a mystery book. I can't tell you anything about it, but I really hope it gets approved. And he teases that for like 3 months. And then at like the very beginning of 2018, he's like, yep, my pitch for DC got approved, but I still can't tell anyone what it is. I'm really excited. It's going to be cool. And then like he posts like images of Harleen fan art. And I'm like, that's new. That wasn't in your original stuff. It's new and it's colored. It's Harleen. You're doing Harleen. And then, like, I really got disappointed one day. It was like, yep, it's definitely not Harleen. I'll tell you that. And I'm like, oh, man, that sucks. So I just did more, and I just missed it, I guess. And then, like, a week before the book was finally announced to be with Black Label, he tweets out this other Black Label book called Harley and Joker: Criminal Sanity by a completely different creative team. He's like, this sounds cool. I'm like, oh man, that's the Black Label Harley Quinn book and he has nothing to do with it? This is so disappointing. And then a week later, Harleen gets announced. He's like, me, 3 years ago. Oh yeah, this is just experimentation. This is just fun fan work. It's not going to turn into anything. Also me, fucking lying. But I've been talking about it for so long, and then when the first issue finally dropped, someone's like, oh man, you've been talking about this for years. And I'm like, it really has been. I've been talking about this fucking book, wanting it for like someone could have like entered and left high school in the time that I've been talking about Steven Sejic Harleen as like the dream project. And we got it. It's a 3-issue Black Label book. It's the best Black Label book, bar none. Like the other ones have been kind of okay, kind of interesting, or verging on Frank Miller. Please don't have bullies from Smallville try to rape Lana Lang. Let's not do that. No, but it's okay because Superman's gonna kill someone in the next issue. What the fuck, Frank?
I am still waiting for Kelly Sue DeConnick's Wonder Woman. I've just been waiting on that.
Yeah, like that's the other thing that got me is like there were all these titles announced when Black Label was announced, and like half of them still haven't come out, and yet Harleen was announced, and like 2 months later it hit stands.
It's kind of jarring, yes.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But no, Harleen is just absolutely fantastic, and it is 100% like the definitive Harley Quinn origin now, just bar none. Because no, like even Batman the Animated Series, I've got the controversial opinion. I don't really like her origin. I like the teeth of it. Like there's that one moment in the episode that goes where like I believe she said anything, ready for whatever he throw at me, and Joker says, you know, my dad, you really used to beat up on me, except that. And she just instantly, like, because it's just too fast. And I understand it's working with TV. You don't have the time to really pace stuff out necessarily. Yeah. But, like, I've always been bothered. And everyone seems to run with that with Harley Quinn's origin, is they make it just, it's too quick. It's always too easy to me. And by devaluing how hard it is to manipulate this woman who's supposed to be like a brilliant psychiatrist into being the Joker's crazy girlfriend, like that, the harder you make that, the more competent you make her before she falls, the more horrifying Joker becomes. And the Joker's always supposed to be horrifying. So please make her more competent, make her more intelligent. And that's what this book does. This book, it's also like painfully obvious, just from issue 1, that Steven Sejic has read a lot of Harley Quinn stuff, and if he hasn't, then he just did a thing that's like, it amazes me if he hasn't, because in Harley Quinn's initial comic series, when she first got introduced into the DC universe and first got her own comic run back in the early 2000s, shortly after the events of No Man's Land, we get some more background on origin. And
hold on, you're breaking up a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. When I'm back and sounding good, just to keep.
Okay.
I'm good. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. In her like further details of her origin, we see that like it's revealed that she didn't actually get a degree in psychology. She just slept her way up to it, and that's just one of those things. I'm like, no, that's so dumb. Don't do that. And Sejic just has this moment in this where she keeps going to see one of her professors and stuff because she's convinced that she's not getting it. She just doesn't understand the material. And her professor says, "You're like my best student. You don't need this extra time with me." On their own, the material you're getting from me just brings it up to an A+. You can do this work by yourself. Why do you insist on always coming to my office hours and stuff? And she's like, well, I guess it's just because I like spending time with you. and then they start an affair, and then they're caught, and like she just carries the reputation of sleeping her way to good grades, and that makes her kind of a pariah amongst her class. And you just get the sense that she's kind of into guys who are a little bit older than her, and authority figures to an extent. And it's just there's so many little peppers of details and stuff, and it's so good. And then the other thing I really like about the series, Sejic is known for an erotic romance comic book, Sunstone, and yes, he makes the Joker pretty fucking hot. Like I don't know, maybe I need to question my own sexuality a little bit, but like he legit does it. Like, when I was first getting into the Batman fan community and stuff, I was into it and on forums and stuff, and there were a lot of girls, and they'd talk about how hot the Joker was, and I never quite got it outside of just Heath Ledger was hot, therefore. But no, like Steven Sejic draws the Joker as incredibly sexually attractive, which just kind of it adds another little thing onto the fall of Harley Quinn. And it's just, oh my god, it's such a good series. I really, really, I hope and pray that we get a book 2, and possibly a book 3. I don't think he's got it planned out more than 3 volumes. And then I hope that they're all very successful. From what I understand, Harleen book 1, or volume 1 rather, has been incredibly successful. So I really hope he's able to like go all the places that his initial fan comic teased, and then he's talked about plans for a spin-off called Isley, which I'll read the shit out of that too. There's one image that he's posted a bunch of times, which is with Poison Ivy talking to Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing trying to convince her to just let go of humanity. He's like, breathe in the air. And she goes, they've poisoned the air. And I'm like, holy shit. That's so good.
Oh, man. I love the idea of Swamp Thing and Poison Ivy. And I can't believe that took so long for those characters to kind of find each other. Like, even Justice League Action, the animated series, like had some fun with those characters. Like, they seem... I don't know. She almost seems like she'd be a better foil for Swamp Thing than Batman now.
I mean, certainly. Like, just, the other thing about the Harleen book, and that would make me excited for an Isley spinoff, is Sejic's drawing all of it too, and I hate to compare artists and stuff, but I put Steven Sejic, Alex Ross, and Lee Bermejo in the same boat. Like, they are all on that level of quality to me, where it's just incredibly detailed, highly realistic, but just incredibly expressive. I think that's the thing that Sejic does really, really well, is his characters are so expressive. He understands facial expressions and how to get across an emotion really, really well. I absolutely adore his work for that. And it's interesting because he's a digital artist, too. He does it all as digital paintings, which is really neat.
I love his art, and he is one of those artists that I really enjoy. A comic artist who's I can look at a piece of their work and go, I know who that is. They have such a distinct style where I can pick them out like of a group. Like if you put a whole bunch of Jokers together, you can pick out his. I love that. And
well, his is going to be the hottest. There you go.
Yeah. And his work actually, his art style reminds me of, I think his name's Sean McMurphy, who did the White Knight series. I don't know. Their styles have a very similar vibe to them. And
that's really interesting, because I think Murphy's is very much more sketchy compared to Sejic's. Sejic's got like a much more realistic and much more like painted kind of style to it. So that's an interesting comparison, because I would not think to say that.
I would agree, and I think that's actually a good distinction between the two, is what you just said. And yeah, it's so funny. We've seen so many different versions of the Joker over the years, from grotesque, too sexy, and it's just I don't know. It's kind of interesting if you kind of like think of him as like a devil stand-in. There can be like a seductive quality to him.
Oh no, absolutely. It's actually funny. One of the lines in the book is, "I danced with the devil in the moonlight." Like he pulls the '89 reference, but like makes it sexy.
I know. I don't know. It always kind of, because I don't know. I never really liked it when writers and artists go too grotesque with him, like during the Scott Snyder days where he had his.
He cut off his fucking face. It's actually really funny. There's Steve Sejic did like a gag comic about that where he drew Joker with the like belt strapping his face back on kind of thing, and it was just like blah 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 blah, because he can't fucking say anything if he's cut off his face. He doesn't have lips anymore.
Oh, I know. It's just like, come on, man. He's bad. I know he's really terrible. You don't have to go that far with it. Like, I get it. So yeah, that's a really good choice for number one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing I've been waiting for years. So it's just like, I'm so glad to have gotten it. It is really like just, and again, as someone who's a big fan of fan works, because I think they can, on occasion at least, be better than what you get most of the time. It's really great to see something that was initially at least lied about as being a fan work, or at least could have existed just fine as a fan work. Let me put it that way. To be like a full series.
My hope is, if this is successful and continues to be successful, that maybe, I don't know, maybe we can see some of his other stuff that he's been kind of parading around online see the light of day. It would have to be agreed upon between two companies, but the Wonder Woman Lara Croft crossover that he was doing for a bit, because I know Gail Simone was tweeting that stuff around, but that was really popular, to the point where I feel like some people didn't even know who he was, or if it was official or not, because it just looks so strong.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's just, what comic is this in? Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know if he keeps at this level. Hey, we might be able to get that. Of course, legal companies and agreements and stuff.
I mean, it's a video game character. They'll throw them in anything.
That's true. DC, yeah. I really wish DC would cross over Wonder Woman more with other things.
Oh, yeah.
Batman's the go-to guy for their crossovers, but I could definitely go for some Wonder Woman teaming up with several different characters, including Lara Croft.
Hey, you should check out Dragon Ball DC, since she's one of the main characters.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that brings us back to full circle here. Our friend, Ian here is working on a YouTube channel that juxtaposes Goku and his planet Vegeta with Superman and Krypton. And what's that channel called again?
It's Geeks for Fun. You should go check it out. We're having a lot of fun over there, and we're geeks, so we're on brand.
That's right, and you have fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not drama.
Geeks for Drama. That's gonna be the spin-off channel. That's gonna be our fucking takedown videos and stuff.
Oh yeah! All right, we take it down this week. Yeah, let's have more fun this year, geeks. Okay. I guess that's it. Unless there's anything you want to say towards what you're looking forward to 2020. We got the Bat-Cat series coming out.
I don't know if there's anything off the top of my head that besides Bat-Cat. I'm not sure what's going on in the Wonder Woman book. I'm not sure if G. Willow Wilson's still writing that or if Stephen Orlando's taking it over at this point. So I'm curious to see what that's going to be. I know issue 750 is coming out pretty soon. That's a big milestone issue for her. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm interested in a lot of the Black Label books. Those have been kind of hit and miss. There's Wonder Woman Dead Earth right now. It's got an okay start, a little bit problematic maybe, but I can buy it. based on the
Yeah.
conceit of the story. I don't know. See, things are happening.
I know Marvel has a couple events. One of them is sort of a mini version of Civil War, where heroes have to register, but this time it's the teenage heroes,
Mm.
which also makes sense. Like, hey, we got these teenage heroes with godlike powers running around. Maybe we should do something about it.
Mhm.
So that's going to be interesting because we're going to see a lot of Miss Marvel, Miles Morales, the Young Nova, and a few others in that. We got more of the X-Men line coming up, and you mentioned Wonder Woman 750. That's going to be really cool, and I guess the end of Superman Smashes the Klan. I'm not sure off the top of my head what else is coming up this year. So I haven't seen too much advanced warnings on some things, but yeah, if it's anything like this past year, it should be great. I absolutely adored a lot of stuff came out this year, and I think both our lists reflect that.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good year for comics. If nothing else.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, I do stuff too. You can follow me on the social medias, like the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Instagram. Also, you can support this channel at just $1 a month over at Patreon. And you can buy my comic. I make a comic too. I don't just talk about them. You can buy Red Knight issues 1 and 2 should be available very soon. Probably by the time you hear this, will be available in digital and print on manospublishing.com. You can check it out. And I think that's it. I had a lot of fun, so thank you, Ian, for joining me this year, and hope we get to do another one of these very soon.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Yeah, have a good night.
You too.